I'm uninviting my childhood best friend from my wedding for what she did to me. I, F20, met Adriana, F19, during middle school, and we became fast friends. We both bonded over being introverted and quite nerdy. She had always been the quiet shy girl of our friend group, never really speaking up much. This persona disappeared as we entered high school, where she became more outspoken and branched out to new people. Towards the end of my freshman year, I met Dylan. Dylan and I instantly clicked, and after several months, we began dating. Fast forward to high school graduation, Adriana revealed she had a partner in Nevada, which was across the country. She eventually left and has been living there since. Months later, Dylan and I got engaged towards the end of 2022, and since then we've had multiple discussions about wedding planning. However, while on one of our dates, Dylan revealed to me that about 1 to 2 years into our relationship, Adriana had texted him, saying that she wanted to be in a relationship with him, telling him that I didn't need to know and that, what she doesn't know, doesn't hurt her. I was absolutely livid. Not only because she had tried to get with my then boyfriend now fiancé, but that she was giving me all smiles and continued to be my friend after she went behind my back. And even though she failed in her attempt and was now halfway across the country with her new partner, I couldn't help but feel so utterly betrayed by her, even if this happened several years ago. I'm not sure if this is even something to be upset about, because like I said, this happened years ago and she has a partner now, but I no longer feel comfortable with her attending our wedding. I don't think I could be comfortable knowing she had try to break us up and get with my groom at some point. We're still in the planning stage, and have yet to hand out announcements or invitations, but I don't think I'll be sending any to her. I'm uninviting my—
Didn't get paid for a trial shift. I recently moved house to a new suburb and had to resign from my job. I really don't like sitting at home waiting for the right work to land in my lap, so I really don't mind if I just do some interim work, even if it's low-paying, unskilled work. So I applied to several labor jobs in construction and manufacturing, expressing my interest in doing paid trial shifts to find something to keep busy with while I send out applications for the work that I am most familiar with, which is work health and safety in high-risk environments. A small family-owned manufacturing business contacted me back accepting my offer for a paid trial shift. They manufacture aerosol products. I worked the day. The place was a mess. There were no safety procedures in place. They were using a combustion forklift with no spark arrestor to carry gas and flammable chemicals around in a giant warehouse full of them and under pressure vessels. I initially thought to myself, some room for improvement here. But it's not what I applied for, so I shut my mouth and carried out the work that I was there to do. They had been operating for 40 years, so I figured it could wait till the end of the day. Within 2 hours of arriving, they told me they would like me to work the whole week and talk about remuneration on the Friday. It was Monday. I told them that was not acceptable, and I would like to discuss the job with them at the end of the day, to which they agreed. Basically, I was not prepared to work on a bomb site unless they were prepared to work towards a safer environment. They had teenage girls working there who just don't realize how dangerous the premises was. They rely on management to have that sorted. At 2 p.m., all management left for the day unannounced 3 hours before I was scheduled to finish. So here I am with 2 young women boxing products for dispatch. I haven't given payment information, and I now can't discuss anything with anyone in person. I sent an email to the person I had already been chatting to, letting them know that I wouldn't be continuing, and gave them my account details for payment for the day's work. I got no response. So I sent a follow-up email and still no response a week later. I checked their Google profile, and they had one other review from a company saying that they had sent laborer hire employees to the site who had not been paid and had been bullied. I figured that since they have already gotten away with it, there was no point being amicable. So I shot an email out with 10 different deficiencies that I noticed within the business to the work safety regulator. I got an email back saying they attended the site and have issued directives regarding the storage, handling, and use of chemicals, noting that it would be a significant body of work for the business. They have also been given directives to install handrails on the mezzanine level and have been issued an order to provide the maintenance logs for the forklift, and there were directives issued in relation to the manufacturing equipment, essentially costing them anywhere from $10K, $30K in directives. A day after I got the response from the regulator, I sent a letter of demand for the $250-300 they owe me and made a claim with the regulator that handles illegal and unethical issues between employers and employees. And I left them a 1-star Google review. Edit. They came to the table and paid me. I also removed the 1-star review. I do believe they realized that not paying people money they worked for could potentially be more trouble than it's worth. Nickel revenge. This was a long time ago. But a bunch of people at a restaurant I used to work at were kind of pranksters. I was the bar manager at this place, and I have a ton of weird phobias, things that make me cringe. One is thin plastic sides. Another is an irrational fear of spiders. In the restaurant industry, those little plastic-to-go ramekins are the bane of my existence. As soon as I feel them scrape against my skin, I get a visceral reaction. I shudder down to my soul. So in this particular role, I'd usually use a paper napkin or something if I needed to put some together. I didn't need to do it often, but it was noticed and I was lightly made fun of for it. So, I also had a horrible habit of leaving my keys hanging around, just normal forgetful stuff. I'd have them, then I'd set them down to do stuff and couldn't remember where. One day, GM and kitchen manager find my keys, which were on a ring on one of those elastic bands that I can keep around my wrist so I don't lose them. Obviously didn't work as well as I'd thought it would. Womp. They went around the property finding the scariest spiders they could, trapped them in plastic ramekins, and made them into like charms all over my stupid key bracelet with tape and a few with holes. GM said he'd fire anyone who tried to help me get these things off. So I did get a kind soul to help. Yay! Now the revenge. We had our bank open pretty late nearby. Daytime, lead bartender was headed out and offered to take the deposits from the day. I was like, sure, but I need a favor. I took all the petty cash, all the money from the drawers and anything not locked up, every paper bill I could spare, and asked her to get me nickels. Ended up being like $1,000 in nickels. She was on the clock and would have had to come back with the deposit slips anyway. This was part of her job. The way that place worked, sans nickels. So this wasn't really outside of her job description. We'd regularly ask her to get change. Just not usually $1,000 in nickels. So I took all these nickels and loaded up every single drawer with them at the end of the night. There was very little paper money left after the nightly drop. I counted them all out perfectly, so every drawer had $200 of nickels in them. Petty cash? All nickels. GM didn't do his cash count or check drawers until after the shift started, and he was in an absolute panic because all we have are nickels. He had to count all of them back up again and go back to the bank and ask for real money. Calls me up and starts yelling about nickels. I'm like, IDK, I guess we must have had a lot of nickel-paying guests last night. You didn't realize this when you counted the drawers this morning? Oh, you didn't count the drawers until after the shift started? Wow. Guess you won't make that mistake again. He later ended up being a total dirtbag, but I'm still proud of my nickel revenge. I couldn't post this in another subreddit due to their rules on revenge stories. When I was active duty in the military, I was in the schoolhouse barracks, which were 3 to a bedroom, connecting to another room via bathroom. So a shared space with 6 people. We had a Taco Bell on base, and me and my buddies would go every day or so, bring our food back, and come back for it later after going to the entertainment center on base. One particular individual in our 6-pack would always eat our Taco Bell before we got back. Sometimes some of it, other times all of it. We put notes on it, gave multiple warnings to stop eating our food. It was always only our Taco Bell. He would brush us off and eat our food. This went on for weeks. We could have not left our food or took our Taco Bell somewhere else, but it was a matter of principle. It was ours, not his. One fine summer evening, we bought a box of soft-shell tacos, each took them into the bathroom, and deposited semen samples into the tacos, wrapped them back up, left them in the fridge, and left to the entertainment center as we always did. We came back, and alas, our shit-stained roommate had eaten our food again. He didn't realize the error in judgment he made. This time, we didn't mind. It was borderline the funniest thing I've ever experienced in my 30 years. He continued to eat our Taco Bell until we eventually all left the schoolhouse and went out separate ways. We never told him. We kept it between us 6, and others we tell this story to over drinks who have no connections to us. But it didn't matter that he continued to eat our Taco Bell after that. We had won. We won. Story 2. So since around last year, I am in high school, me and this popular boy, let's call him Ramiz, do not get along at all. We used to be great friends until that year. Soon enough, he started calling me names during lessons, scream or say horrible things every time he saw me, had a problem with me basically. You sitting there doing what I'm literally allowed to do, and obviously every time he would say something rude, taunting towards me, I would say something back, but as I mentioned, this guy was popular, so he had a lot of people on his side. Like I would get approached by other people asking why we don't get along anymore. But he would live his life like nothing happened, and that really got to me. After, this other guy, let's call him Mustafa, who is friends with Ramiz, started doing the same things to me after seeing Ramiz doing the things he did. But with Mustafa, it was much, much worse. He took things to a physical level. We're saying that this guy took a huge stack of those wooden whiteboards and smacked it across my head, and what did everyone else do? Laugh. I got over it and let it be. Big mistake. This guy used to offer to hand out tests, and when he got his hands on mine, he would give them to Ramiz. Like Ramiz had the right to see my results before I did. I got over that yet again, and I didn't say anything. After a while, I got really irritated with Ramiz, and I decided to do something about it. You see, Ramiz really wants to be a professional footballer, and he will be one for sure as he's already signed up for some sort of label or practice that he gets to skip school for, but that label will kick him out if he messes up too much in school. So they can't find out he's a bully, right? So I threatened him next time he said anything to me, and he's been real quiet since then. But Mustafa was the only problem now. He physically does things and verbally. He always says that I stink. It's a high school insult in my school. And you would say things like that at pull you didn't like, and it really annoys me. Mustafa had this really expensive designer hat that he wears all the time. He took it off one day in lesson, and then he turned to me and started making racist jokes, starting saying things about my dad, he's met my dad before, and started a whole thing of how I stink again. So when he wasn't looking, I threw his hat at the back off the class, waited for the bell to go and for him to leave. I picked up his hat and threw it in the bin. He's never getting that hat back. That's all I've done for now. But I can't help but think, should I tell a teacher at Mustafa? I don't want to be labeled as a snitch or be hated, and I'm afraid that even then it won't stop, that it will get worse. Fiancé cheated on me with someone at work. Now she's leaving the country with him. Where to even begin? I was with her for almost 5 years, and our wedding was in 5 months. It was essentially 90% planned by her. She also planned and hosted an extravagant engagement party the year before. On a weekend, we were tasting cake together, and she says, I think we have a winner. The next day, she comes home from a friend's house and says it's over. Sends me an apartment listing to move out immediately. Tells me how she hates how she's dragging me along through life, how she has this burden of the house and living in a sexless marriage. It was me initiating 99% of the time and her rejecting. I tried recommending we go to counseling before, and she said no. I move out immediately because I knew I couldn't be in that house. She then tells me she's going to sell the house, the one we spent 3 years renovating for her, get rid of the pets, and move to Europe because she always wanted to work overseas. We spend a month of almost no contact. Sometimes I push for counseling, a break, anything, and she is adamant that she needs to leave. Everyone is telling me there is another man, and I definitively said no, that's not possible. She's been cheated on before. She hates cheaters and makes a big point how they're awful people. Turns out she left everything on my laptop, and I finally decided to see if there was truth. She hooked up with a colleague on her last work trip, some guy she had a fling with before I even met her 6 years ago. Turns out he lives in Europe and she's leaving for him. When she came back from that work trip, she continued planning the wedding. She continued sending me tuxedo recommendations. We had people over for wedding cake tasting, and the entire time she was messaging him and talking about their plans together. She convinced me it was my fault and for the entire month apart, and I believed it. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She said it was not her intention to hurt me, and that's why it had to end so quickly. I'm still reeling from this. I don't understand the logic. Why continue planning the wedding? Why even get engaged if you were hung over a guy before you even met me? I don't understand it all. What was the point of dragging me along only to run off to some past guy? Could have just left me alone. I'm going through therapy, but I'm still just lost. Edit. I need to add this. We had a pregnancy scare earlier, and I was like, sweet, I want a kid. She was texting the other guy baby names.